So, going into just real quick background on SketchUp. It was developed by Atlas Software in 1999, and then it was purchased by Google in 2006. And in 2010, that's when SketchUp Pro 8 was released. That's the version that I'm going to be using today. And then last year, Google sold SketchUp to Trimble. And after that happened, everybody that was using SketchUp kind of held their breath waiting to see what was going to happen because everybody loved SketchUp the way that it was as Pro 8. And then so we weren't sure if it was going to be taken and completely revamped or, if there was going to be any big changes that were going to be made. And less than a month ago, Trimble released SketchUp 2013. So I'm still working with SketchUp Pro 8. That's what the presentation will be on. I'm going to talk a little bit about 2013, but I honestly haven't had the chance to really try it out. I haven't upgraded my license. And I don't think that I will because a lot of the differences that I'm seeing between Pro 8 and SketchUp 2013 involve the presentation tools that come with SketchUp. So this is that here. If you haven't downloaded SketchUp yet, you can download it at sketchup.com. If you go to that link at the top, you'll see a screen that looks very similar to this, and you'll be able to click on download SketchUp. It'll take you to a new screen where it's going to actually ask you what you intend to use SketchUp for. So in the drop-down box, if you choose personal projects, which basically indicates that you're going to use SketchUp either just playing around with it as a hobby at home, it'll give you the ability to download SketchUp Make, which is the new Trimble version of the free software that a lot of people were using before. So they're calling it SketchUp Make. That's different from the free version of SketchUp that I'm going to talk about here during the presentation. I haven't played around with Make either, or SketchUp 2013. It doesn't sound like I said, there's a huge amount of difference, but the big thing is that SketchUp Make is not licensed for commercial use. So previously, the free version of SketchUp Make, or the free version of SketchUp, you could use that however you wanted to. It didn't have the full capabilities of SketchUp Pro, but it was still a really great program to use if you were not able to buy it at the price that they had on it at the time. You select professional work, then you can download the Pro 2013. Then I would recommend if you haven't downloaded it yet, you'd like to try it, you can do it for 8 hours of unlimited use before you can decide whether or not you actually want to buy the price. And one of the things that Trimble has added to the price is this $95 amount, which is supposed to be for technical support. Okay. Now, just been trying to do a little bit of research for you guys just to see what was released in the new version. I wasn't seeing a lot of changes to it. It seemed like most of the things that they upgraded is involved with layout. They improved layout quite a bit. I don't use layout. Layout is a different program that comes with SketchUp that it works with SketchUp, interacts with SketchUp, and allows you to take SketchUp models and present them through this very user-friendly program called Layout that is, I would say probably, if I were to compare it to something, it's probably kind of like PowerPoint or Word. So, but I'm not going to get into Layout. We're just going to talk about SketchUp today. If you do have an older version of SketchUp, or you're looking to still download maintenance files, you can go to the SketchUp Knowledge Center on their website. If you look at the link up the top, the help.sketchup.com, and you type in downloading older versions, you'll get a screen that looks similar to this. And SketchUp 8 free, that's the one that used to be free. Anybody could use it for any reason. And then SketchUp Pro 8 is the one that I have and will be showing today. So you can still download those. Okay, so one of the biggest differences between the free version and the pro version, that's always been a question, is, okay, well, which one do I need? Which one should I use? The free version and the pro version, besides the fact that the pro comes with layout, is the importing and the exporting options. So if you're a more advanced user, you will more than likely want to take a SketchUp file and either import a file like AutoCAD or export an OBJ file into a different program. So you have more options when you're working with SketchUp Pro. The free version doesn't have as many importing and exporting options, but there are some plugins out there. So I would recommend having the free version and then seeing if you can find a free plugin that you can acquire that will allow you to actually import and export what you need before going to Pro if you don't feel that you're doing enough work for Pro or you don't have the money for Pro right now. I definitely think that the free version has a huge amount of potential just to do basic crime scene modeling. Okay, and then SketchUp Pro comes with layout. It also comes with a separate program called Style Builder. Again, I don't use Style Builder. You can change styles just in SketchUp, so I've never felt the need to use Style Builder. But if you want your models to look, some people get really, really artistic with their models, and they'll use Style Builder to change things around significantly. If you want, a really good breakdown of the difference between the free version and the pro version, I would recommend going to Google and just typing in features of Trimble SketchUp, and one of the first two hits is going to be these two breakdowns that you can see here, still under the support.google.com site. Okay. So another thing that is really great about SketchUp is they offer a SketchUp viewer, and it's basically it's not the full program. It's going to look, the interface is going to look something like this, and it will allow a person to take one of your models and navigate through the model. There's an orbiting feature, panning feature. You can zoom in and out, walk through the model, and just basically navigate around the model in a way that you can really get a good idea of what the 3D image looks like. One of the things that I've recommended people do in the past is actually download the SketchUp viewer and either provide that with your SketchUp file, which is a SKP file, to your prosecutors or your case agents or whoever you want to provide this model to, or you can have them, anybody with an internet connection can download this for free and install it on their computer. So a lot of people say, why use SketchUp? Why is SketchUp better or worse than some of the other modeling programs out there that people can use for crime scene modeling? I would say probably the best reason for me is that SketchUp is extremely user-friendly. I was able to teach myself almost everything that I'm doing with SketchUp just using online tutorials. There's just a number of very great free resources out there. Just even on the website of SketchUp.com, you can go there and find, they have video tutorials. So there's getting started with SketchUp. There's 4 or 5 basic getting started with SketchUp tutorials. And then if you click on the video tutorial section here, they have a number of other video tutorials for people that are a little bit more advanced in SketchUp. There's also some self-paced tutorials that they've uploaded into the 3D Warehouse that we'll talk about here in a minute. There is a help forum with just basically any problem, any question that you have. You can go in and you can just ask people who've probably had the same problem. And because SketchUp's been out there for so long, there's just the number of people that are using it and the resources out there. It's almost it's kind of unlimited right now. There's a knowledge center that is, like they say here, an encyclopedia. It's just there's very few questions that you're going to have that you're not going to find answered here on SketchUp.com. And then if the links that Robert was providing earlier worked, the quick reference cards. I kind of just wanted you guys to have those because I thought that they were helpful. I used the Windows version, which basically is just showing you what each of the icons do and shortcut keys for them. And then for you crazy Mac lovers out there, they have a version for you as well. So I figured, depending on what platform you're using, you might want to print this out at some point in time and just keep it next to your desk when you're teaching yourself how to use it if you haven't worked with SketchUp much. There's also a number of other sites out there that are all devoted to SketchUp and SketchUp plugins. I would do a screen capture of this myself and two of my co-authors, Andy Maloney and Albert Shade, last year I think it was, we wrote an introduction to building 3D crime scene models. That's an article that you can find on the internet. It's a free resource over at the Association of Crime Scene Reconstruction site. There's also Master SketchUp, Sketchucation. There's the SketchUp plugin reviews. It's a great site. So all of these sites are basically designed for people that want to learn more about SketchUp, and you don't have, most of the resources are totally free. Another reason that SketchUp is so amazing is there is the 3D warehouse. So the 3D warehouse, it was launched around 2006, I believe, and I was doing some research the other day trying to find out how many models are in the 3D warehouse. Right now, they're saying that there are millions of models, and basically what it is since 2006, anybody that's been using SketchUp has had the ability to upload their models into this online repository. So you can go into this 3D warehouse and look up anything you want. There's just anything that you can think of, someone has probably built at some point in time and uploaded into the warehouse. So if you don't have the time to sit down and build a full crime scene from scratch, build every single desk and furniture item and couch and refrigerator, you can go into the 3D warehouse and you can find more than likely something that looks very similar to the item that was at your scene. And that's kind of a question that I'll present to you guys here in a little bit. I've gotten into some discussions about how realistic do we want our models to be. This warehouse, it could, unlike some other modeling programs out there, especially the ones that are designed for crime scene work, a lot of people that use like CAD Zone and BMPD, those have libraries with furniture that are designed for scene work, but it's fairly limited. So 3D Warehouse can give you, like I said, millions of models out there. I did a real quick search just to kind of give you guys an example. So when I looked up gun, there were, you can see here that it's showing results 1 of 12 many. So it's basically saying that there's so many models that we're not even going to give you the full number here. The downside to the warehouse is that any user that's ever used SketchUp, because they're uploading models into SketchUp, the models may not be exactly what you need. So if I kind of cycle through the gun, and like you'll see Gatling gun here. I have never had a scene that's ever had a Gatling gun at it. So some of the searches that you do will be really helpful, and then sometimes you have to actually look for something a little bit more specific. So doing a search for handgun, you get handgun racks, okay, or you'll get whole scenes, people holding guns. You may not need that. You may want something a little bit more specific. I looked up Glock, and again, I'm still getting not an exact number because there's so many guns in the warehouse that have Glock somewhere in the information. And then I looked up Glock 17, got really, really specific with the type of weapon that I was looking for, and it's telling me that there are about 72 results for Glock 17. So, and that's just for that one particular type of gun. So imagine if you were to look up, refrigerator or stove or knife or baseball bat, you're going to just get a slew of results, and I've always been able to find what I need within just a few minutes. But you may have to look, you may have to decide, do I want this gun over that gun? So moving on to some case examples, I've been kind of keeping an eye on the chat window. I think that David said save your questions for the end, but I figure if you guys have any questions before we move on. I think Sarah asked about tech support. I've honestly never had to contact Google directly for any sort of tech support. I've always been able to find any answer to any technical issue within the online forums that they have with just the SketchUp users have run into those issues and been able to answer any questions without ever having to contact a real live technical support person. But with the new 2013, I believe that part of that fee is that you actually can you can call if you are unable to find your answers in the forums, they'll be willing to help you out. So I wanted to show you guys this. This is probably the first sketch that I ever did with SketchUp. It was extremely basic. It was not, I did not consider myself a 3D modeler or a graphic artist in any way. I just wanted to show, I had a scene with a bed that was in the corner of a room, and I had evidence on the floor, and then I had evidence about 3 inches up on the wall. And I knew that an overhead view sketch wasn't going to show what I needed to do, and if I folded the walls down into a sketch, it was going to get really complicated looking, and wasn't necessarily going to really show the relationship between the evidence on the floor that I wanted to see. So I did this. This is, like I said, this is in 2011. Did this just to show the relationship between items A, B, and C. A and B are ricochet marks, and C was a bullet that I was able to, that we found when we moved the bed. So, presenting this is how I would present it. The ricochet mark was A, B was the first strike, and A was the final impact that actually caused damage before the bullet came to rest. About 6 months later, we had a scene, another scene where an individual was shot, and this is showing an overhead view looking down on the room. And then, as you can see here, the pool of blood is where the individual you just saw on the floor, that's where he was laying, that's where his head was. And then I was just using it to show different views of the scene with the evidence items. You can see the little circles designed to represent evidence that was used at the scene. Okay, and then this was around the same time frame. It's starting to get a little bit more advanced, and still all of this is just, for the most part, just playing around with SketchUp, learning what it does. Okay. So I'm gonna start up SketchUp now. See here, Thomas asked about using precise or generic details. I'm assuming everybody can read that. That was actually a question I had for you guys. That's a discussion that I've gotten into with some of my coworkers before. How photorealistic do you want the scene to be? And I think that that there's some best practices that are supposed to be coming out here soon from FSM, where I'm hoping that question will actually be addressed in the community. We try to keep things not photorealistic. We try to, the models are supposed to be more or less a representation of the scene without actually being just like a photograph of the scene. But I know that it's sometimes hard to get away from that. When you're modeling a scene, you do want it to look as realistic as possible. Sarah says, are you using measurements you took at the scene to place the furniture? So yes, I do. And the models that I do tend to be from scenes that I've actually gone to. So I know what measurements I'm going to need to do the models. measurements that you need. But we try to fix everything that when we're at a scene, we try to fix what we can, either by hand or with a laser scanner if you have a laser scanner data. And Richard just asked about that laser scanning data. And I'll get to that here after we talk about SketchUp, because I know that we started a little bit late. So I'm hoping that most of you guys have had the opportunity to download SketchUp. If you haven't, hopefully you can follow along. So one of the first things that you're going to see when you start up SketchUp, if you still have this checked, is going to be a screen that looks something like this. If you have 2013, the screen is going to look a little bit different. And then usually I have this turned off, but I wanted to show you guys this just so that you can see the templates. Usually what I do is and this is all personal preference, some of the templates, actually have a ground plane with a blue sky. Some of the templates start out in gray, and then you can choose your measurement system. Do you want to start in inches, feet in inches, millimeters, meters? And I know that some of you out there are going to really cringe when I say that. I like feet and inches. That's how I think. So that's what I'm going to start with. So you just have to bear with me here. If you guys do end up wanting to start with, metric, you can always come into your model info under window, and there's a units section, and that actually allows you to change your model measurement type. So just a real quick example here. What's really neat about this as well is even after you've selected what kind of measurement system you want with your template, you can come back in here, your units, and you can edit that at any time. So if you want to change it to centimeters, midway through your project, it'll change it for you. You don't have to worry about if you start with feet, you have to stay with feet. You can change this at any time. I like the architectural. I usually have a precision of 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to stay with that. Sorry if you guys don't like that version. Okay, and then I like just the full white layout, but you guys can start with whichever one you want. What you can see here when you start, typically, is you're going to see a blue line, a green line, and a red line, and these all represent the axes. So blue is vertical, and then the red and the green are supposed to represent more or less the X and the Y, with this point right here being your origin point. You navigate around your model using, I'm going to assume that everybody here has a 3-button mouse. I'm just going to build another cube here. If you push down on the middle button, it'll rotate you around the center axis point. You hold down Shift, you can pan, and then you can zoom in and out using the wheel. Those are all more or less the shortcut ways. You can also do that over here. So if you want to orbit, you click on Orbit, Pan does pan, and the magnifying glass will zoom you in and out. I don't typically use these. I usually use middle mouse button or holding down the Shift to pan. If you see me moving around the model, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to come over here and click on these for this webinar. And then, for those of you that have no experience at all, I don't know if this is a little bit, hopefully it's not too overwhelming. Most of these icons you see, I'm not gonna talk about these. What you're gonna want to do though is you're gonna want to go to your view and your toolbars and click on the large tool set. And that'll make these main icons pop in. Okay. And I also recommend if you have 2 monitors, one really good thing while you're starting to learn SketchUp is to open up the instructor window of slow for you guys. I don't know how much you're able to actually see with the upload, so hopefully you guys are not going to get too blipped around here. The instructor screen tells you what each item does as you click on it. It tells you how to use it, how to modify it. For the rectangle tool, to draw a rectangle face, it's showing that you click once, draw the rectangle, and you click again. Or the rotate tool, showing that how you click, and then you can rotate the box. So when you're first learning, this is kind of what I did. I had this instructor window open, and I just set it off to another monitor that I had. And you can just, anytime you forget, okay, what does this do? What does this do? It changes. It shows you exactly what it does. So I found that very helpful. Okay. And delete this. And then the first thing that I'm going to do, if you guys are following along with me, Robert provided the sketch PNG file. That's what I'm going to import. It should look like this, and I'm going to just open it up, use it as an image. I'm going to drop it right here. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to take the tape measure tool, which is right here, and I'm going to measure this wall. Click once, drag, and click again. I had to get used to that. I'm used to, there's a lot of programs out there, you click and you drag and you release the mouse. This, you don't drag, you just click and click. So if you look down in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that the length that I just measured for this wall is measuring at about 6 feet 7 inches. Do that one more time. What I'm going to do, following along, it says 6'8". I'm going to type in 30 feet. It's going to ask me, do you want to resize the model? I click yes, and I'm going to click, you click here for zoom extend, or shift Z. I like to, I do that a lot, so hopefully I can remember to come over here and click this shift, zoom extend, but Shift Z on Windows will get you so that the entire model comes back to the center of the screen. And now your sketch is showing that this wall is now about 30 feet long, having resized it that way. Okay. I'm going to draw a rectangle on top of it. And my rectangle, I know from doing the math, the rectangle for the floor plan, I'm going to type 30 feet. And then the length of this far right wall is going to be 30 feet 4. And you can see down in my dimensions box in the left-hand corner that I typed 30 feet, 30 feet 4. Okay, and that's pretty much what you do anytime you ever want to draw a line, want to draw a square. You can make it exactly match. You don't have to eyeball it. You can just draw a small square and then type that in over here. And I'm going to turn on X-ray mode, X-ray style mode here so that you can see through the square. Okay. I'm going to use the tape measure tool. I'm going to measure out these walls. This top wall is 25 feet 8. This bottom wall here measures 17 feet 6. And that's me just adding up these numbers, plus the interior walls, which are about 4 inches. I use the line tool to draw on dashed lines, sort of your guidelines, and I'm going to delete real quick because basically the original sketch is not to scale. What you can see is that if you're drawing on top of the sketch, you can clearly see that the to-scale model that you're starting to draw is not matching up with the underlying layout. So I don't know how many of you guys have the ability to draw to-scale models or to-scale sketches when you're actually at scene. I usually don't see to-scale sketches when I go to scenes, and if there's another agent that's doing a sketch, sketches tend to look, at least the rough sketches tend to look pretty messy. And I mean, this one's fairly neat. You'll be able to follow along with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to the side. We'll just work side by side with these two items. Okay. So is everybody following along with me, or are you just watching? Because if you, what I can do is I can try to go slow, so everybody can use the sketch that you were provided, or I'll move along a little bit faster. Okay, so it looks like most people are just watching. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll move along a little bit faster so that you guys are not tortured by the speed. Normally, if I were to model this whole house layout, this would probably take me, I would say, maybe 2 days to actually to get it the way that I would want it to look. We don't have the time for that today, so right now what I'm just going to do is model this section right in here for you guys. Using any of the tools that come with the free version. Using the tape measure tool to measure out this first room in here. And I'm actually going to turn off my axes because sometimes I find that a little bit visually confusing. And I'm just going to use the line tool to draw this wall. And you keep an eye on again, the bottom left-hand corner, it says length. So I have length of 4 feet. You don't have to draw out. You can just draw out, as far as you want to go, and then you type in how far out you want that line to go. And that's usually what I do. So I'm typing in 3, and I know this length is going to be 17 feet. This is 2 feet 10. 8. You end up doing something that you make a mistake, you Control Z on Windows. I'm not really sure what that would be on a Mac, but you just undo it. As precise in here as it would normally be because I know we don't have a lot of time. Normally I use a lot of guidelines I know that my walls are, 4 inches or 6 inches. So I try to factor that in. There's a little eraser tool. You can use that, or you can go up to just edit, delete guides. Go to your guides. I'm making this outside line all one. Okay, and I'm going to show you real quick. If you do that right, you can use the push-pull tool right here. Pull up your walls. I'm going to pull those up to 8 feet, and I'm going to turn off the X-ray so you can see that you've built basically a box. Your interior walls, or at least the beginnings. And draw this wall here for the closet, because I'm only going to work on this front area right now. Drop those walls back down. There's actually a wall here too. Okay. So that, I mean, it's not as accurate as I would want it to be. Normally, I would have used a ton more guidelines and made sure that everything really fit the measurements that you're seeing here on the sketch. So that takes a little bit longer to do. So we're gonna skip that part. So the next thing that I'd like to do is I'm going to bring in some items from the 3D warehouse just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you can find in the warehouse and how easy it is to use. So you would go to under File, 3D Warehouse, get Models, and this is something that you're going to need an internet connection for. That's the one downside. So hopefully most of you would be working always with a internet connection of some sort, whether it's Ethernet or if you have a wireless card. Okay, so I'm going to type in Entertainment Center, and just going to go through until I see something that I think would fit. Of course, I'm going to have photographs of my scene, or I'm going to have been there in the scene. Roll through until I see something that looks about right. Something the other day that I thought looked. Here, I thought it looked good. Once you have it pulled up, you can see a quick image, and you can actually click on 3D View and see an example of what the full model looks like. Okay, so if you decide, okay, I like that, let's download model, load it directly into your model, and depending on how the person uploaded it, it may or may not pop in a way that you want it to pop in. It may be really large or too small or oriented in a way that you're going to have to fix. So I'm going to drop it right there for now to line it up with this entertainment center over here on the rough sketch. And I'm going to zoom in. You can see that this wooden texture that the person applied, and that will kind of slow down navigating of the model, especially once you have 6, 7, 8 items in there. So I'm going to turn off the shaded with textures or styles. I'm going to go just straight to just shaded. That helps out a lot. Some people like to work in wireframe mode. That makes things really fast. I think that's a little bit confusing, so I'm going to go to shaded only. And then when it's uploaded into the warehouse, it's uploaded usually as a component of some sort. Now, a component is something that is, if you were to make a copy of it, just basic explanation. If you were to make a copy of it and then you were to change one part of your original, copies are going to change with that. That can be very helpful if you are, building stairs or building the post of a fence. In this case, you don't need that. And I'm going to scale it so that it looks just about like what I want it to look, and I'm here scaling. I'm going to move it over to touch. And I'll drop a rug in using the rectangle tool, and then I'm going to paint it. And I like, let's see here, paint it colors, or SketchUp comes preloaded with a number of different types of materials that you can paint on your surfaces. So there's asphalt and concrete, there's, carpet and textiles, roofing materials. So if you wanted to, actually paint this rug a different type of fabric, you could come in here and, pick something that's been preloaded and paint it. I'm going to turn on texture again so you can see what it looks like. And then you can edit the fabric. We're not going to do that. We're just going to keep it simple. Okay, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to look up couch. Bring a couch in. And like Joseph Brick's couch. I download it directly into the model. And I'm going to set it here. You can see that when the person uploaded it, they uploaded it so that that was the orientation. So I'm going to use the rotate tool. You can rotate it like so, or another way to do it, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to rotate it around a full 180 degrees. Okay. Now if I chosen, and then I can move it over here, if I chose to not do that, I could scale it as well. That's a pretty neat feature. Just scale it about the opposite point. Works. Now most of you are going to, I would think most of you are going to have, photographs to work with and a number of different measurements. This rough sketch doesn't have any of the furniture fixed. Okay. And that would have taken, in order to place every one of these items in here the way that you want it placed, it would have just taken forever. So that's why I'm not dropping it in exactly, putting to the legs exactly where you would have measured it at scene. That's something that would take, a lot longer to do. Just to kind of give you an example. Another neat thing about the warehouse is that if you're working with a team, you can actually, you can build models, and you can share those models with you can allow access to just your team. I know some people who do that. They build models, and then they'll upload them, and there'll only be 5 or 6 people that have access to those. And then if you find something in the warehouse that you actually like, you can add it to your collection, which is what I've done here. You can see that I found some of these items and I liked them, and I added them to my collection. And then that way you don't have to constantly go back and do the same search. You can find, if you say have a coffee table that you really like, or you find 10 coffee tables that you like, and you can add those to a coffee table collection. And then that way that'll be within your own library of sorts. You don't have to keep going back into the general warehouse pool to find the same coffee table. I like this coffee table. I'm going to download this into the model. one thing you might be able to see, I don't know if any meeting is able to really show it very well, but when I'm moving things around, hopefully you can see that it's saying you're moving this on the red axis. If you like the direction that you're going, you can hit shift and it'll lock it into that direction. That's one of the things that also makes SketchUp pretty easy to use and to navigate is this inferencing that it does. Okay, so I'm going to scale this. It looks like I want it to look based on photographs or the measurements that I've taken. And then I actually I like the idea of I'm going to pull up my paint bucket, I'm going to sample the paint on this item here. So I import it instead of trying to find it. I'm just going to sample it, and then I'm going to actually apply it to the surface, just because I know that from the photographs, I want the things to match. Depending on how the person get quite complicated, depending on how the person organized their model. Or if you do something like that and you decide you don't like it, you can always go back and just undo most of what you've applied. To make a copy of this, one of the features here is you can move something, and just by moving it and clicking on Control on Windows, I'll make a copy. I'm going to scale this down. Like that, where it's at, and then I'm going to make another copy of the scaled version that I just did. Pull that over here. And then I'm going to import just a couple more things, you guys, and then we'll move on. Like this chair, I'm going to pull this chair in. Move that right here. I'm going to rotate it. And I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit. Okay, so basically what I'm doing, I'm going to use the views here just to show you real quick. I'm just trying to make this model look like the sketch. And if I had more measurements, I'd get really detailed with it. Just to kind of give you an idea. What you can do really fast without of the things I'm going to do, that was one of the questions I had for you guys. I'm going to turn textures back on. One of the items that I shared with you was a JPEG of a texture. I'm going to bring that in now. Okay. And I'm actually going to apply that to this couch. The reason I'm doing that is because that's actually the fabric that was on that chair at the scene. You can do that if you want. If you want every item in the room to look like the item that was at the scene, well, you're probably not going to be able to use the warehouse a whole lot because you're gonna end up modeling every single furniture item so that it looks exactly like the item at the scene. But then you can also paint on whatever textures that you want to paint on, and that's one of the reasons that I was saying that it can take a while if you want your model to start really looking very photorealistic. And there's, like I said, there's a big debate out there about how realistic you want this model to look. What is it that you're trying to show? You know, are you trying to show a jury an example of what the scene looked like and then where the evidence was, or do you want them to actually, you know, feel like they're doing a walkthrough of your scene? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just pull up my walls now so you guys can kind of see. What this is going to start to look like. I'm going to pull up this kitchen counter. Okay, and then I'm going to actually cut a couple doors and windows in here. So I knew there was a door there. I knew that there was a window there, and I'm just using, you know, it's just the simple tools. There's the rectangle tool. I'm gonna cut a window here. All I'm doing is drawing a rectangle, and then I'm using the push-pull tool. Push it back to the opposite side. You can actually see that it cuts a hole in that surface. And I knew that there's another window over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, now, again, if I were really modeling this, I'd probably use the tape measure tool, and I'd actually measure, you know, down from the ceiling so far, drop a guideline, and then I'd measure over from the corner of the room, drop a guideline before I created my windows. I'm not going to do that here because you guys would probably not enjoy yourselves watching that. So there's basically just a really basic beginning of your model. There's a tool over here, position camera, and I'm going to drop a camera right here. And I'm going to click, and then I'm going to drag a line. And basically, you can see that what I'm telling the program to do is drop a camera and then look towards the kitchen area. And it will actually set the camera down right there. Okay, and I'm at an eye height of about 3 feet, so I didn't position the camera just right. I'm going to type in 5 feet, and I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to lift up the camera to an eye height of about 5 feet. I'm going to nail that up a little bit. There we go. I'm going to do a field of view of about 45 degrees. Just kind of back us out of there a little bit. basically look around. Okay. Now, what I would want to do is, this is one of the reasons that it takes me a while at least, is this is the example of the room that you're looking at. So you guys can see that. What I would want to do is I would keep fiddling with this. I would want to put blinds on the windows, and I'd want to put a lamp on the table, and I'd want to, put a TV over on the entertainment center, and I would want the wood of the coffee table and entertainment center to match, and you really start to get to the point where you just keep tweaking it, and you take a picture of the couch and apply that texture to the couch over here, and make, oh, this couch has one pillow, you want it to have 4 pillows. So the idea is kind of like, how far do you go with that? And that's not a question that I can answer, because I always want to go a little bit too far. I always want to add just more detail than is probably necessary. There's a stand over here that has some plants on it, so I'd want to put plants on the stand. The question is, if you're working crime scene modeling, do you really want to do that? Is that the kind of model that you want to show a jury, or do you want to keep it really simple? Oh, let's see here. We're at about 17, 15. David, do you have a time for us?
You mean, do you want to know what time it is now, or how much time we have left?
I know we started a little bit late. How much time do we have left?
I would say, if you can start to wrap up so people can get their questions answered, I think that would probably be good. I think you've done a very good job explaining how to construct a model in SketchUp, and then we also understand that you are anal retentive and want to fill in every detail.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to turn on, I'm going to show you just one more quick thing that I think is helpful to know, is that SketchUp does a really good job of doing fly-throughs. So just really fast, I'm going to position my camera, and I'm going to go to View, I'm going to go to Animation, and I'm going to add a scene here. And then I'm just going to rotate it around and look at it, from a different view, depending on or I could even walk in and position the camera inside the room and have it, go down the hallway, go into the bedroom, turn around, come back out, if you were trying to mimic the movement of, a victim or a suspect in the scene. But just to show you really fast, I'm just going to create some really quick scenes. Okay, and then what you would end up doing is you would play like a quick example of this animation. It's just going to tell the camera, I want you to cycle through those scenes that you just created. I'm going to go back to your very first scene. I'm going to stop it there. And then you go to Settings. And right now the settings for scene transitions is at 1.5 seconds and 1 second delay. Usually I have no delay, and let's bump that up to 5 seconds just so they can show you really fast. So now I'm saying I want a 5-second delay between my scenes. So it's gonna go much slower now. Between scene 1 and scene 2, you're gonna have a 5-second transition. There's gonna be no delay. It should keep on rotating to scene 3. And it'll take you back to scene 1 just because that's where it starts at. Okay, stop. And then once you can go in, you can add scenes, take scenes away, put the camera wherever you want, fiddle with your views, fiddle with anything until you get it looking exactly like you want. And then once you have created the scene setup that you want, you would come in here to Export Animation, and then you would just export an animation. Usually my settings are pretty high resolution. You can tell it to loop to starting scene at the end. You can keep it wanted to, you can tell it. There's all these different settings in here to export an animation. I'm going to show you really quickly a couple examples. When that's been done. So this is a model that was built. It was on top of a rough sketch that was provided to us. We were not at the scene, and we didn't have all the measurements, so that's why it's not quite to scale. But it was a model that was built in SketchUp. The walls were painted a transparent color, that's why you can see through them. And the camera was set so that it revolved around the scene in such a way that you could see the victim inside the room and the furniture inside the room, along with the doors and the windows that were in relation to the body. Okay. We did something similar with we had a sub fire not too long back, and we built a sub in SketchUp. It was designed to basically show. It was for the arson investigator to be able to use to show, where the fire originated, and then where the fire traveled along with the smoke damage. Couple more quick examples. Here was a model that was built. I wanted to show this because it was actually used. It was rendered in Podium, which is a plugin that you can get that will take textures and lighting that you have in your scene and make them look a little bit more realistic. I think Podium right now is about $200. You can get some fairly reasonably priced plugins if you want your models to look, much more realistic. Some of the plugins can be very, very expensive, but there's a few out there that are pretty decent and not that much money. You can also use SketchUp with other programs. We've used SketchUp with Max and Poser. This was a SketchUp model brought into Poser after all the furniture was designed, and then a Poser body model was placed in such a way that it was in the chair. I just want to show those real fast just to give you, where you can go with SketchUp. There's just the basic, like that very first sketch that I showed you that was, it had no detail. It was just walls with some measurement lines, all the way to where you can actually bring bodies in. If you are on that one that I showed you, I'll actually go back because I like this figure. I use it quite a bit. This figure here on the floor, that's the Mur Young figure. That's in the warehouse. If you look up, I think it's M-U-R Young, Y-O-U-N-G, and that's in the warehouse. You can position the body so that it looks like your victim. If you want to use something that's a little bit